because this takes just a little while. Let me tell you about the time I first met Brother Branham. Now, this is a funny story. George has heard it many times. I believe it was 1965. I think it was. And as you know, Brother Branham went out west in the fall, and he would, after school let out in Arizona, he would bring the family back to Jeffersonville. Well, that year he brought the family back to Jeffersonville. Now, you know, we had all these kids around Jeffersonville there, and we'd all go to the tabernacle, and we were friends, and sometimes we'd have little boyfriends and girlfriends, you know. And nothing serious, just friendships, you know. But one day, my buddy, Frankie Neville, Brother Neville's son, he brings me a note. And this note has written on it, "Dear Kenny, I like you, do you like me?" And there was 2 little boxes there. One you could check yes, and one you could check no. He said, Sarah Branham gave this to Ruth Collins to give to me, to give to you. He said, what are you going to do with it? I said, I don't know. He said, do you like her? I said, I guess. He said, check yes. So I checked yes. And I gave it back to him, and he gave it back to Ruth Collins, and she gave it back to Sarah Branham. So I guess we were official friends then, you know. And so this went on, and I didn't get any more notes for a while. And next thing I know, my friend Frankie Neville, he comes to me and he says, Kenny, Sarah wants to go out with you. I'm pretty dumb. I didn't know what going out was, you know. I said, what? She wants to go out with you. I said, what's that mean? He said, well, she wants to go somewhere with you. I said, why? She wants to spend time with you. I said, how would we do that? He said, she told me she would take care of it. So the next thing I know, Charlie Branham comes to me. Now, you may not know who Charlie. Brother Branham's brother was Doc Branham. He was the Sunday school superintendent of the church, and he was the custodian of the church. And he had 2 boys. He had one boy named Charlie and one boy named Mike. Well, Charlie was 3 years older than I am. Now, I'm only 15. Charlie's 3 years older. He's 18. He's got a car. He's got a girlfriend. So Charlie comes to me. He said, Kenny, you know Sarah wants to go out with you. And I said, yeah, I heard that. He said, you going to go? And I go, I don't know. He said, you ought to go. He said, look, Sarah said, you 2 can go with me and Linda, and we'll go out and eat or something. He said, are you going to go? And I go, well, I don't know. I was a little nervous about it, you know. And he said, oh, go ahead and go. I said, all right, I'll go, you know. And he said, well, I'll set it up. I said, okay. So he comes back a week later, and he says, hey, Kenny. He said, if you go out with Sarah, you got to meet with Brother Branham. Or he called him Uncle Bill. You've got to go see Uncle Bill and have a meeting with Uncle Bill. I said, that's it. I ain't going. Nope, not me. I said, I ain't going. He said, no, you got to go. She wants to go. And I said, I ain't going. Not doing it. And let me tell you why. I didn't tell him. But you see, as a kid, we weren't allowed to have comic books in our house. But I would sneak away, and I would go to the corner drugstore, and I'd stand there on Saturday morning and read the comic books. I'd read about Superman and all those heroes, you know. But I always knew that Brother Branham was the real Superman. And I'm going to tell you something. My parents gave me 50 cents a day for lunch. Half a dollar. Man, we could eat good back then. And I would take that 50 cents and I'd go to school and I'd gamble with the boys. I gambled my money. Man, there was many days I'd go home with $3 or $4. There was many days I didn't get to eat lunch. And you know what? I was telling little stories that wasn't too nice at school. I knew that if Brother Branham came close to me, he would know everything about me. And I ain't going. He said, they tried for 2 weeks. Said, come on, you can go. It's all right. Just talk to Uncle Bill. I said, I'm not going. I can't do it. I don't want to meet him. Finally, after about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, they convinced me. Charlie came to me and he said, listen, Kenny. He said, I've talked with Uncle Bill. He said, you don't have to meet Uncle Bill. He said, but now will you go out? Sarah wants to go out. They're only going to be here for the summer. He said, will you go out with her? I said, if I don't have to meet Brother Branham, I'll go out. He said, all right, I'll set it up. So I guess he got everything set up. He called me. He said, Friday night. He said, now his girlfriend lived out of town. He said, I'll pick you up. I only lived 2 miles from Brother Branham. He said, I'll pick you up. We'll go to Brother Branham's, or Uncle Bill's house, and we'll get Sarah, and we will then go get my girlfriend, Linda. He said, is that all right? Can you do that? I said, okay, sounds good. We got a plan, right? So Charlie comes and picks me up. Now, Charlie has got a 59 Oldsmobile. And a 59 Oldsmobile is about as long as that wall right there. And it was summertime. The windows were down. The birds were singing. And he picked me up, and we drove to Brother Branham's house. And I started to get real nervous. I really started to get nervous. I said, maybe this wasn't a good idea. He said, too late now. And he pulled into Brother Branham's driveway. And he sat there. And I sat there. And I sat there. He said, you got to go to the door and get her. I said, I got to go get her? He said, yes, you got to go knock on the door and get her. I said, Charlie, can't you do it? Can't you honk the horn? Can't you do something? He goes, no, Kenny, you got to go. That's what guys do when they go out with the girls. I'd never been out with the girls. I didn't know, And he said, you got to go. Well, I got out of the car, and I walked up to Brother Branham's door, and I stood there for just a minute or two, and I want to tell you, brother, something. This is a gospel truth. I was so scared. My knees were shaking. I could hear him. And I was trying to think of every way not to go ahead and go through this. Finally, I got enough courage. Walked up, knocked on the door. And I'm petrified because I just know Brother Branham's going to come to the door. But he doesn't. Sister Branham comes to the door. She opens the door. She goes, oh, hello, Kenny. Good to see you. She said, come on in. She said, Sarah, have a seat. Said, Sarah's upstairs. She'll be ready in a minute. She'll be down. Have a seat. Listen, I didn't want a seat. I wanted to get in and get out. I've told this to young people all over the world, so I'm sure you young people enjoy this. I didn't want a seat. I just wanted to get out of there. But I had to sit there. And the whole time I sat there, I'm looking around. And I'm thinking, where's he at? Where's he at? But he didn't come. Man, Sarah come down. She's beautiful, And so Sister Branham gave us our instructions, And so we went out the door and went and got in the car. I was feeling pretty good now, I put Sarah in the front seat between Charlie and I. And so we're ready to go. I'm feeling good now. So Charlie backs out of the driveway, and he starts down the street. Now, remember, I told you there's an empty field between Brother Branham's house and Brother Wood's house. So he starts down the street. And as we get in front of that empty field, I see Brother Branham back there with Banks Wood. And they've got guns. And about that time, Brother Branham screams out, "Hey, Charlie, wait a minute. I go, "Charlie, go. Charlie said, "No, it's Uncle Bill. We got to stop. It's Uncle Bill." I said, "Charlie, can't you go on?" Sarah said, "Charlie, why don't you go on?" I said, "Go on, Charlie." No, it's Uncle Bill. We got to stop. If Uncle Bill says stop, we got to stop. Oh, it seemed like an eternity. Brother Branham and Banks Wood starts walking up to the car from this field. And it seemed like it took forever. And I'm sitting by the passenger door, and that's the side he walks up to. Didn't have a shirt on. Big old hairy chest. Have you ever seen him without a shirt? He's just a big old hairy chest guy. And he had that little old hat he always wore, really dirty and everything. Banks walked up, and he had his gun. And Brother Branham had his gun. I'm going, what is going on here, you know? And he sticks his hand in the window to shake my hand. And I'm this far from his face. Now, Brother Briscoe said something the other day about in his presence, in the presence of Brother Branham. I don't know if it was because I was in his presence. I don't know if it was because I was scared to death. I don't know what. But when he shook my hand, he goes, "How you doing, boy?" Well, he didn't have to say it so loud, you know. Sound like a mean man, you know. "How you doing, boy?" Like I said, I don't know if it's scared or if it's his presence. I tried to speak, and I couldn't speak. Nothing comes out. I'm trying my hardest to sound like a sensible human being, and nothing comes out. And I feel it really bad, you know. And he took my hand and held it for a minute. And he looked in my eyes. And you know how they talked about his eyes getting narrow? And I looked in his eyes, and there was those lights in his eyes. And I saw the eyes of an eagle. I had been to the Cincinnati Zoo where he saw those eagles and talked about the eyes of the eagle. I had been there and seen those eagles. And to me, he had the eyes of an eagle. That's all I could think of, his eagle eyes. And there's something that came over me, brother. I don't know what it was, but it was that presence, I'm sure. But something came over me. As a 15-year-old boy, I knew he knew everything about me. And I felt so bad. And I'm still haven't said anything. And he said, still holding my hand, he says, "Where you taking her, boy?" Nothing comes out. He says, "Oh, so this is that Capps boy I've been hearing so much about." You know, I should have said, "Yes, sir," you know, or something, you know. I couldn't say nothing. He asked me again. He said, "Where are you taking her, boy?" Well, Charlie's getting kind of tired of all this. He said, "Oh, Uncle Bill, leave him alone." He said, we're gonna go play miniature golf, and then we're gonna go out to eat. We'll be home in a little bit. So Brother Branham says, "Oh, that's fine. That's real fine." He shook my hand again. He said, "You kids have a good time." I still can't say a word. And of course, he knows, he knows the situation. And so he starts to turn, him and Banks start to turn away from the car. And I'm starting to feel a little relieved. I feel bad because I haven't said anything, but I'm starting to feel a little relieved. But then he turns back around toward the car window. And this time, he takes his gun, his rifle or whatever it was, and he puts it through the window. And he lays the barrel of that gun on the back of my neck. And he says in a real rough voice, he says, "You are going to bring her back tonight, aren't you, boy?" Gun on your back, man talking to you like that. I finally found my voice, but it was about 10 octaves too high. I said, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." He laughed, and he laughed, and he laughed. He slapped his leg. He said, "I got him, Banks. I got him." Banks said, "You got him, Bill. You got him." That was my first time to meet the prophet.